Thank you, Kiana. Thank you for this opportunity, and good morning to everybody. And I'm so pleased to see the numbers who have joined this call this morning. It's great to see you all. And as Kiana's mentioned, it has been 2 years since we've met. And that has really sort of impeded on all our work as such. And I just want to highlight to say that there were 3 sort of very major happenings, not only in ASSAf, but also within the world that we live in, that really impeded on our work. I think the first one that I want to highlight is that we had a change of hands at the Academy of Science of South Africa. Professor Himda Sudiel, who has been welcomed to this webinar this morning. Just want to acknowledge also her role in sort of supporting, especially the scholarly publishing program in what we do and how we actually broaden our horizons, which I hope that this presentation I'll make this morning is eminent of. So that has been quite something for us because it also fell into the time when the government then moved into its next funding cycle, which we call in sort of governmental language as the NSEF reporting period, which lasts over 5 years. So that also meant that we could look at our strategic plan within the Academy of Sciences South Africa and adjust accordingly to the tone and sort of the priorities that government set us to do. And that really changed the way in how we are doing things right here now at ASSAf. We have a far broader remit, although we're talking about scholarly publishing and editors this morning. You will see that this program specifically is stretching very far and wide across the academy, but trying still to keep its focus in terms of scholarly publishing, of which is in some instances just a part of a whole broadened vision for the country and internationally in terms of research, and that is open science. So you will see the projects that we've tackled is far broader than we normally did in the past. But of course, COVID-19 really also brought some challenges to us, and that's one of the reasons that I think we all did in the beginning of last year. We all just went quiet, sort of stunned by this virus, keeping us back and not being able to function normally. And then to find our ways is how to reach out and still be relevant and still to have a value proposition to the national system of innovation. So colleagues, I hope you enjoy the ride with me this morning. And let me then proceed. So I am surrounded by a number of extraordinary staff members. Oh, here you go, much better, right. As said, you know, I'm surrounded by some incredible staff, which really helps us and ASSAf to really obtain our objectives and the work that we have to do. So again, my sincere appreciation to them as well this morning for the excellent work they're doing. There are two very specific forums and one specific committee that really guides the work of the scholarly publishing unit at ASSAf. ASSAf is sort of governed and it's part of the workflow, and how we sort of set our strategies out is through committees. So our committee governing the scholarly publishing unit is the Committee of Scholarly Publishing in South Africa. Again, new change of hands, quite a large group that joined us during 2021. It took us some time just to understand what's happening in the CSPI-SA, what is their role and responsibilities, and considering that ASSAf is taking sort of a new direction, and because of this webinar we're having over the 2 days, it's of the future of scholarly publishing that we'll have to interrogate and ensure that it's projected and sort of injected into the work of the scholarly publishing program as such. So we already had 2 annual meetings, and on this level we give input on the reports that the scholarly publishing program brings forward, strategic decisions, etc. And then of course the one other pillar of the scholarly publishing program is the National Scholarly Book Publish Forum. Again, there as well, quite a number of scholarly book publishers have joined that particular forum, and we are currently in the process actually to interrogate what does it mean to be part of an consistency. Sorry, can somebody just mute there, please? Thank you. Where we're looking at some blockchain technologies, the value of local book publishers. As you know, that university presses are under major stresses, and we need to see how we strengthen them as the one very big part of our work. Second very big part of our work is the fact that books are also considered as can also apply for accreditation through the research output policy. Therefore, we have to ensure that the book publishers, especially scholarly book publishers, actually publish books of quality and fit for purpose in terms of scholarly work, etc. As you can see, there's a whole suite of services we'll be looking at and interrogating at our next meeting to continue. And I think still a very important booklet that was brought forward is the best practice for peer review of scholarly books, as that serves as a guidance when books are being evaluated for accreditation. And the crux of the whole accreditation of books are actually how was it peer reviewed, and it is very important for books to be very upfront about how it has been reviewed. And now I'm stuck. Now my slides won't advance. Thank you. So the National Scholarly Editors Forum, there you go. Last meeting was in 2018, and extremely grateful that we could have this meeting over 2 days, trying to look at new issues emerging, which will impede and have an influence on the work we do, not only on ours, but certainly from an editor's point of view as well, especially when we get to the National Quality Framework, which will be presented by Professor Maton and Mr. Chief Mabazele from the Department of Education and Training. And then, of course, we still have a very extensive database of all the South African published journals. They're not all necessarily accredited, but we do have good indication of what's being published in South Africa, which is quite a landmark, I think, as well. Just for interest, it's about 320 journals, which is quite a number, etc. So these are one of the projects which the Scholarly Publishing Program took on, because it does look and smell like scholarly publishing in its entirety. And it was mainly because of one of our staff members within ASSAf actually resigned from ASSAf, and we had to go through quite some austerity measures to ensure that all the work within ASSAf will continue. So the Scholarly Publishing Program took upon the Humanities Book Lecture as part of its work, and this was the first year that it was done under the auspices of the Scholarly Publishing Program in conjunction with the Humanities Standing Committee as such. We had a remarkable awardee, Professor Charles van Onselen, with his book, as you can see the cover right there. I think not only was it very emotional for us to make him the awardee, but the whole story behind this book was quite incredible. And for him personally, went through quite some difficult times, and to receive this award, I think for him and his family, it really added value also then to the field of humanities to have awarded him this particular prize. So this prize started, and then of course the Humanities Annual Lecture, which started in 2016, and we had quite an eminent speaker that addressed the members of ASSAf and those who were interested. Quite an interesting lecture that was held, etc., quite provocative, but it was very well received, etc. So that was also one of the projects that we took upon ourselves, stretching across the ASSAf work to ensure that it proceeds. This is a very important one. We're starting to embark on the world of open data. Also to comply with international rules when exchanging data, personal data of incumbents that are being researched, etc., or sharing personal data. It was instigated and enforced by the POPIA Act, as you all know, that came into being this year in the 1st of July. And then we decided to actually start doing a code of conduct of research to assist researchers when exchanging data or entering large collaborations, and how do they actually share the data, what can be done to safely and within the remit of the Act to share the data as such. This has been a major effort from our side. It really needed quite some expertise to actually brought it to this particular level. We are still working very hard behind the scenes to actually have it published and then to set it out for broad comment. But this will have quite an influence on research in South Africa when sharing data. We had to appoint quite a large group to assist us. These expertise do not reside in the ASSAf staff component. We set up a steering group of experts. There was a drafting group, there were reference groups, there were many forums and public consultations to get it to the level we have it currently now. But as said, we are still busy with it in the background. Then a very interesting project, again, it was done because the COVID-19 pandemic started, and we did find that there were no trustworthy information out there. As you all know, there are many resources quoting and saying what's happening, etc. But they weren't trustworthy in one place at the time, and we decided to do this COVID-19 booklet, and it is mainly aimed at grade 10 to 12 learners, and then of course for the very large public out there. To just understand what this pandemic is about and where and sort of the history of viruses, etc., to give them a broad overview of this particular virus as such, etc. We've had very good response on this booklet. We are currently busy drafting some teacher guidelines for teachers. We are in collaboration with the Department of Basic Education, whereby this booklet and its content will be plugged into the curriculum of grade 10 to 12 learners in the field of life orientation, most probably also in natural sciences, but we still have to negotiate perhaps some deeper engaging in terms of other subject fields, because this booklet is not just about health, it's also about the social problems that children particularly experience in isolation and when they have to stay at home, etc. This also did raise the question about schools and online learning, etc., which we will take forward in the next financial year. But it has been very interesting. So this morning on this call, we have two panel chairs who will report back on their particular group-reviewed, peer-reviewed journals. We are actually coming to the end of the cycle, of the current cycle. So we have 12 peer review reports that have been published up to date. So 248 journals have been reviewed. There are still two outstanding. The one is the Economic and Business Management that is about to be published. There are other disciplines, which is really our fruit salad of journals. Those were the ones that we did not catch in our first round of evaluation that we've really sort of put into one pot, and we are trying to evaluate them to conclude this 12-year cycle of peer reviews. In the discussion tomorrow with Johan Leton and Chief Mabezela, you'll see that a new framework will actually come into place. That will necessitate us to look at the peer review of journals very critically and to tailor make it to the new framework to also serve as a particular purpose, not only for the system, but for the Department of Education and Training and for the stakeholders at large. So we're really entering into some very interesting times, and we are looking forward to apply new methodologies to old principles, so to speak, and for the value proposition then to come much more to the fore. Cielo South Africa, still continuing, etc. As you all know, it's a full text, open accessible journal database. We certainly did experience a little bit of a hiccup which we did deal with through negotiations with both the Department of Science and Innovation and the Department of Higher Education and Training. And we are pleased to announce to say that we are back on track again and continuing as such. The platform is still growing, still adding quite a number of articles per month, 300 new articles, and about 2,060 journal issues that we have, and 40,000 articles on the platform currently. So we aim to add new titles on the platform, one title to the platform per quarter, but there is still a long list waiting to be submitted to the platform. We did have some challenges that we lost some of our expertise as well, who helped us to publishing on this platform. But I'm also very pleased to announce that that expertise is now back into the CLO team, and as said, we are back on track, and we are publishing as we should. 3 titles have been removed due to non-adherence to CLO criteria, and that is that relates then to these journals actually going for a commercial option, which then automatically they cannot be included then onto this platform as such. You can see the views are still growing. Every year we think the growth might not be as much, but as you can see, there's been 34.5 million views to date. So close to 8 million have been during the last 12 months, which is mammoth and really contributes then to the world of knowledge, etc. Just to remind you that CLO South Africa is still an accredited index as per the research output policy of the Department of Higher Education and Training. And it does feeds into the core collection of the Web of Science, and we can see by analyzing the citation analysis that we can see that CLO South Africa is playing a critical role not only in the CLO citation index, but it also enhances the citation rates of the journals being published on the CLO South Africa platform. Colisa Journals. Colisa Journals is our own attempt to provide journals who are really struggling at a very low cost to have the journal being housed on a particular server. So we just give server space to these journals. We are not interfering into their editorial practices. We are pushing a lot of best practices to them, that we do. So we've had 2 meetings already this year whereby we try and train the different editors to come on par with the different standards. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And then, of course, we have updated quite recently to the most recent stable version of the Open Journal systems as such. We also had to align again with the POPIA Act, not only on this platform, but on all our platforms. And as said, moving into the world of online only because of COVID, we really had to sharpen up all these practices of ours to comply and to be in line, not only with governmental rules, but also in terms of the security issues that we have to apply on all our databases, like security certificates and other measurements to secure all the information that we house on the different servers that we host. So currently there are 12 journals on this platform, and very slowly growing. As said, it's really for struggling journals, and they have to motivate to come onto this particular platform. Just to give you an idea of the type of traffic that this platform solicits. African entomology, not open access yet, but as from 1st of January, that's why the count is 0. But you can see that these journals are drawing major traffic to their site, and also quite active on the site in what they publish thus far. Colisa Journals has also, like all the other programs within the scholarly publishing program, SAJS, the peer reviews, the and just generally the scholarly publishing program. So we host quite a number of webinars where we try to not only profile the platform, but that we also try and profile editors and the problems they actually experience, and that they have the opportunity to discuss it in an environment where they can be served with advice, etc. But also much broader. We have also had quite a couple of webinars in this year. As said, we are also quite linked via our South African Journal of Science. So they also have brought about a discussion series, introduced an annual outstanding article and outstanding reviewer awards with some criteria that applies within the journal. That's also just to market the journal and to attract reviewers. I think we all have that problem to the journal maybe, and then of course the authors to reward them in some way and to acknowledge the work and the outstanding work that they've published in a particular year. And then also very well linked up with social media. Just want to mention that the South African Journal of Science was also evaluated in the ASSAf's Maths and Science group of journals, along other multidisciplinary science journals. So they have also had to engage with the outcome of the review as such. For us, very pleasing. We have received 3 stars through AJOL, so we are indexed on that platform as well. And then our journal impact factor has risen in 2021 to 2.197. It is extremely difficult, especially from a multidisciplinary journal point of view, to actually raise this impact factor. But again, I think for all the efforts in the whole SAJS team and the editor, is that we've managed to do this over years steadily and gradually. We've managed to raise that impact factor. And also another factor, this is a South African, although it complies to all international standards, it's considered as being international, but it has a very strong Africa and Southern and South Africa focus as such. So it is for a very specific stakeholder group. SAJS also participated in all these events, the National Science Week, peer review, and writing for scholarly journals as such. ASSAf is a member of the Directory of Open Access Journals group. One of our staff members, Ina Smith, is the ambassador since 2017, serving on the panel which evaluates the journals, doing quite a number of effort there to try and get at least the Sierra South African journals DOAJ compliant. Considering that DOAJ is now also one of the accredited journals according to the research output policy, I think it is very important for our journals to actually start also adhering to those standards. I must admit that the standards between the different platforms, AJOL, DOAJ, CLO, South Africa, they are all converging, and they're all sort of quite duplicative of each other, which is good, because I think all these associations really try and work hard that they all speak from the same mouth and sing from the same page as well. So currently there are 116 South African open access journals listed on the DOAJ, and as said, is an accredited index as per the research output policy. Our Quest magazine, colleagues, again, you can see that we report on a broad spectrum of activities under scholarly publishing, but I hope it sort of also assists and helps you just to understand the breadth and the width of what we're dealing with. So that is our Quest magazine. We launched a video in the National Science Week with Northside College, which we try to engage with school children, with learners, to see how do they perceive the Quest magazine, do they read it, and to raise awareness, of course, for this magazine as such. The distribution of our magazine is quite problematic because of our postal services being in such a state. So we have been very creatively looking at alternative ways to distribute the magazine. We still have to also acknowledge that paper and print is still important, especially for school children. But we also have to acknowledge that we have to publish our journal also on our website. So also during the National Science Week, we launched our new we launched our new website with new imaging and branding, etc., a new layout and design. And we're just trying also to put this forward to schools. Many schools do have learning platforms whereby they can incorporate this as a resource for the schools. But also in the same breath, just saying that print is still very important and that we are now distributing it actually through science centres, because science centres do seem to be still engaging with schools face-to-face and physically. And that seems to be working in a much better solution to get the Quest magazine out there. As you can see, the print run is very low. We just really just give it to science centres to market. There is a very limited distribution to selected schools in the 9 provinces. Our current editor is Sue Matthews, and we also have an editorial advisory board that governs the work of the Quest magazine. Again, you can see online has really proved to be very valuable because it has given us a new platform to engage to market our Quest magazine. One of our other functions is the research repository, because as said, ASSAf is moving into a new strategic plan and the annual performance plan as per our strategic plan that we have published. And that necessitated us in this online way of doing things is to actually record what we do. We did have this the institutional repository, but we have now broadened the scope of what we actually put onto the repository. And again, going online and marketing all our publications through this particular platform has also been quite remarkable and just growing as it goes. So I've chosen the one to look at the what are the most downloaded reports of our evidence-based studies on the repository. Interesting enough, training in engineering, the state of research, development and innovation of electrical energy efficiency technologies, our Quest magazine. 12 years later, that's a scholarly publishing evidence-based study, state of biosafety, biosecurity, and so the list actually goes on. So it gives one a very good idea as to whether these reports can be utilized, etc. As said, because we're working on the online of things, we are adding a lot of our webinars, etc., to serve as a record of what has been done, not only in a particular year, but also in perpetuity, so to speak. We've also started a very interesting directory, and again, these are typically one of the projects that we thought this is what we can do within ASSAf, so it has a far broader remit, and that is the African Scientist Directory. I think editors can also make use. This is it's an open directory. You can search where you can perhaps look at some possible peer reviewers for your journals. It's not only South African PhD and researchers that have been listed, but it also runs right across Africa as such. And there's some very interesting and prominent names already listed on this platform. As you can see, the statistics are quite, also again, getting a lot of track out there and to be used, etc., and to profile the different research. Very interesting to look at the traffic and the communications that's happening in the background, how the researchers actually connect with each other across the Africa continent and even globally. So just for your notification. There's our connecting bit. And then, of course, we also published the Open Access Week, which took place the 21st to 23rd of October. Also embarking and cooperating, collaborating with SACNAS to start issuing CPD certificates. Again, in this times that we attend many online webinars, trainings, etc., it was necessary also to recognize the work of our ASSAf members and of our participants in our webinars. And this was a good way to go to actually recognize them. As said, the National Science Week is very prominent for us and critical for us. We showcase not only scholarly publishing activities, but also ASSAf activities, etc. And you can see the themes there. We are quite connected, my team specifically. So we've been involved in the IOP working group for the UNESCO Open Science recommendation, and the research organization registry ROAR, and I'm the director of open access journals. I'm serving on the IOP accredited journals working group as a co-chair. Crossref, we've got particular memberships, Hello Brazil, and many others just for prominence. And I really want to thank you for your time, and sorry this has been so long. I tried to rush through it and make it as short as possible. Kian, over to you, and thank you.